If you're excited for Vikings football, I want you to spam school. Now, obviously, I'm not sitting there in your room watching if you're going to do it or not, but the only way that I'm going to know is if you spam school. So hopefully, y'all are excited for Vikings football. You're watching Vikings Now. Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports. And coming up on today's show, we're going to be looking at some juicy rumors that have happened around Vikings training camp. Kirk Cousins, is he not the guy? I'm not saying that, but the new general manager, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, he might not have a lot of faith in him. And the reason why I say that is because I had some choice words about the Vikings quarterback. Here they are. I'll be frank, the one asset where you could get nervous about not burning it down is quarterback. Cousins is a good quarterback. We don't have Tom Brady. We don't have Pat Mahomes. The Super Bowl is more likely to win if you have that quarterback. It's very unlikely to have that quarterback. So I think what Adofo-Mensah here is saying is, does he have confidence in Cousins? Yes. However, he's not Tom Brady. He's not Patrick Mahomes. And not that anybody really truly expects that, but you have to see there, when he's talking about Super Bowls, he's mentioning bringing up these QBs that I do think have a little bit more of a higher upside, and Cousins' upside is absolutely limited, I will say, over the past 2 seasons. And yes, Justin Jefferson helps out a lot. In 2021, 33 touchdowns, only 7 picks. In 2020, in Jefferson's rookie year, 35 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Before he went to Minnesota, he had only one other year in his entire career. This was back in 2018, where he threw for 30 touchdowns. But my biggest thing is yards are great. Touchdowns are fun. Statistics, whoop-de-frickin-do. Does anybody here think that Cousins can win a big game? Because, yeah, it might not be fair that a lot of times when you bring up quarterbacks, you mention how many games have they won? How many MVPs do they have? Do they have a Super Bowl ring? But that's the world we live in. You know why? Because people 10 years down the road, they're not going to remember how many touchdowns Cousins threw. But they will remember if he can win a big game and if he can win some playoff games and if he can bring home a Super Bowl trophy. Well, hopefully y'all can remember that, unless you have way too many drinks. But be real with me, y'all. What is your confidence level in Captain Kirk? Scale it from 1 to 10. 1 being, you ain't confident in this guy at all. 10 being, you are 100% confident that Cousins can bring home a Lombardi. All right, y'all, we're going to get in now to some Vikings injury updates, and we're going to start with some smaller names and then work our way down the road here a little bit. Also, one of the injury updates I have is about a guy who got a tattoo, and the tattoo's kind of freaking cool. Oh, the first name coming up here is Nate Hairston. He had 9 tackles last season, 4 PBUs. They brought him in. Not too much of a big-time injury update, realistically, but he is on the active/non-football list, and with all the added depth that Minnesota added at corner, this might hurt his chances a little bit of making the roster at the end of the day. Now, before we get into some other players and other injury updates here, I've been talking a lot about Justin Jefferson. I can't gritty whatsoever, but if you want to get your hands on an awesome jersey, go to chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. You can see it down there at the link below. I was also a nice enough guy to put it in the comments and in the description of today's video, but if you're like, dude, I already got a Jefferson jersey. Here's the cool thing. There are hundreds, and I mean hundreds of other NFL jerseys available there. They're Nike. They're high quality. I promise you're going to like them. Did I mention that it's chatsports.com/Vikings jersey? Maybe you want an Irv Smith jersey. I don't know. Well, guess what? He's a full go at camp, and this was probably one of the coolest things that I saw for the simple fact of, in every single fantasy football league I do, I always try to be either the first person to take a tight end or I try to be the last. My other guy, if I don't get one of the top 3, I target Irv Smith Jr. So the fact that he's out there practicing, the fact that he's ready to go, it's a good sign because he's got a lot of upside. Now, I don't know if you've seen the tattoo. Apparently, he got a tattoo of the Hulk on his hand. So every single time he scores a touchdown, he's going to be smashing the competition. I think that's kind of cool. Here's a tweet coming in, though, from Ben Gosling. Kevin O'Connell says he expects Irv Smith to be full go at the beginning of training camp. After the Vikings took it slow with him this spring, they'll evaluate him every day, but liked how he looked with the group of players who reported early this week, O'Connell said. Also, Chris Thomason had this to say: Justin Jefferson expects Irv Smith Jr. to be a big part of the Vikings offense after missing last season due to an injury. that really shouldn't surprise too many people. And there's always going to be targets up there for grab. I do anticipate Irv Smith to have a really good season because you need him to be ready to go. And if he's not ready to go, then you got to rely on some other players who we'll talk about one of these guys in a sec because it sounds like he's doing a halfway decent job. But if you lose Smith, then you got to rely on Johnny Munt or Ben Ellefson. Sorry, that's not going to be a pretty painted picture here. Yeah, you got some other very talented wide receivers in Adam Thielen. You got guys like Jefferson, KJ. You have talent there. Smith, though, can take this offense to the next level. Nobody but wants to be a team that wins 8, 9, 10 games, which is kind of where Minnesota has been. If Smith's healthy, then you have even more upside. And in his career in 2 seasons, 66 grabs, 676 yards, 7 touchdowns. The red zone ability is noticeable, and you're hoping that this young man can continue to get better and better as his career goes on. So what do y'all think? Will Smith break out this season? I don't know. I'm reading that. I'm like, Will Smith. Are we talking about the comedian? Is he going to slap me on here, Jack? I don't know. Y for yes, N for no. Will Irv Smith break out this upcoming season? Coming up, we still got some more training camp news to just break down. And, when you watch a practice or when you sit down and you see all these updates, there's a lot of stuff that happens. So what I figured I would do for y'all today is break down the top 5 most notable things that every Viking fan should know. Here's something that a lot of Viking fans should know, that we're a reliable YouTube channel here, and we're going to make sure you guys are staying up to date on everything going on around your favorite team. So if you want to know news, rumors, if a signing happens, we got you covered here. If, I don't know, something crazy like a Justin Jefferson extension happens, we're going to cover it. So hit that subscribe button. Speaking of an extension, could the young wide receiver be getting paid? Well, I always like to see how young stars answer questions like this. And obviously he's going to get asked, hey, what about an extension? Are you thinking money? He's seeing how a lot of these young players, how a lot of these wide receivers are making big-time bucks. And this is what Jefferson had to say on an extension. I'll focus on contract after the season. Our main thing is reaching to that goal of winning, but I'm not really too fond of money. I'm really just trying to get that goal of being the best receiver. We know that he's going to get paid. And if I'm his agent, which kind of wish I was because I'd be making a pretty good amount of money, right? You're looking at $30 million. I think if you're Justin Jefferson and you should be the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, at least that's what you're going for. And if he has a even better year after the year he had his first 2 seasons, because he set the NFL record for most receptions his first 2 years in the league with 196, set the NFL record with most receiving yards in his first 2 years with 3,016. The 17 touchdowns is 13th on the list in terms of your top 2 years. But overall, you know he's going to get paid, and I can respect the hell out of the fact that he's like, you know what, man, I'll worry about it after the season. The number, though, that you're looking at, Tyreek Hill, highest paid receiver in the league right now, $30 million. That's what it's going to be. It's not going to be underneath. I don't think it's going to be underneath that. Now, maybe it's 28, 27, but that to me is a failed job by Jefferson's agent. So how much would you pay Jefferson per year? It sounds kind of wild to think that receivers are going to be making $30 million, but as the salary cap goes up, if quarterbacks want to be making all this money, you need to be able to throw the football to someone last time I checked. And you don't want Jefferson to go, because if you don't pay him that, somebody else will. But let me know how much money you would pay Jefferson per year. I'm saying it's got to be over $30 million. Let's wrap this show up here with some training camp notes. Cam Bynum, he's been taking some first-team reps over the first-round pick out of Georgia, Lewis Cine, which I'm not always too surprised about. I do feel like this is the time of the year where if I was a coach, I would want to see how some of these other players just simply fit, mix, and match. Cine's going to be the future there. And heck, I wouldn't even mind seeing Hairston, Cam Bynum, and Cine all on the field at one time. Jordan Hicks, who was brought in this offseason, you signed him to a 2-year, $10 million contract, trying to rebolster that interior, we'll say, defense, linebacking room now that you're going to a 3-4. He's not practicing, but I don't think it's anything major. Andrew Booth, he made a nice little interception today on Kirk Cousins. With that being said, though, Cam Dantzler, he was getting the first-team reps over on top of him. That sounds weird. Was getting the first-team reps over Andrew Booth. And then, since we did talk about Irv Smith a little bit, another tight end, Johnny Munt, continues to impress. Made a few good catches today, and I would say he's the front runner right now to be the tight end 2 for Minnesota.